Yes. This episode of Lords of the Storm is brought to you by our sponsors over at Patreon, where you, yes you, can also support the show. Just head over to patreon.com/Lords of the Storm to become a patron today.
Heroes, gather tribute and earn my favor. What do you say? Are you ready to begin?
Hello everyone, my name is Greg Gizmozord Parker, and you're listening to Lords of the Storm, episode 157, the weekly Heroes of the Storm podcast for you, the true Heroes of the Storm. I'm joined tonight, of course, by the Zord Lords themselves. First up, Mr. Kevin Multizord Ellis, and Mr. We kicked him from the show last week because he's irresponsible and the show doesn't come first, but he begged really hard and we felt bad, so we let him back on the show, Ryan TBK Zord Reader. And on this week's episode,
it was a lot of work. So much work.
We edge closer to the final bracket for Heroes of the Dorm. A new hero is revealed tomorrow, hopefully. Depends on when you're listening to this episode. Maybe we'll see. Fingers crossed. The Eastern Clash approaches. And what does the future of the HGC hold? We'll find out on this week's episode and more.
I assume it's more games, right? Like they're going to keep playing games.
Who knows? Maybe they switch to like Duck Duck Goose or something. That would still be a game, I guess.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yep. That's actually how they're going to decide who gets draft or first pick or map pick, stuff like that.
So
Okay,
we've
that
had
would be good.
We've had the
That'd be
Mario
good.
Kart themed brawl. We now need the Duck Duck Goose themed brawl. I think it could be done.
With Lucio wall riding.
Oh yeah, yeah.
How
All
are you
for it.
both doing this evening, TBK? Welcome back,
I'm
first off.
doing wonderfully. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to all the people who tweeted at me. Congratulations. We appreciate it. Mom and baby are doing really well. We are adjusting the baby to a somewhat reasonable schedule, as usually they come out with their days and nights switched. So it's always a little bit of a job to get that done. But thankfully, I'm off this week, so helping the wife out. But night is Heroes time still, because there's nothing much I can do to watch a tiny baby or feed it at night.
Well,
Yeah,
but you're
true.
not sleeping anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm
Hey.
So why not, right?
I
That
can't
was
even
me a couple
imagine
months ago.
what that baby's going through, because not only are his day and night switched up, but she's alive for what, a few days, less than a week, and then they drop daylight savings on her. It's like, what?
I know, right?
What the heck, man? I'm just a baby, and you're screwing with my time already.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Like babies and toddlers, because I got a 2-year-old too. They don't care about daylight savings time. They
Nor
don't
should
give
anyone.
a crap. Nor should anyone. Unfortunately,
We
as
have to.
responsible adults, we have to care. But kids, they don't care. So it's not as bad when you jump forward, because usually that means they then sleep in. But when you fall back and they're still on the same schedule, then it gets a little dicey. 'Cause
Yeah.
They don't care. They just get up at the same time.
So here's my thought on daylight savings, because I was giving this a thought when it happened because I was angry. I'm okay with it. It's okay that it happened, but whoever decided this was a thing should not have told anybody. Don't tell me that you're switching the clock an hour ahead while I'm asleep. Let me just wake up and think that I'm waking up at the same time and that I'm tired, because I'm tired every morning because I'm not a morning person. But no, I know you took that hour away from me, so I hate you for it. Should
That's
just be
cruel
an
stuff.
unknown thing, but completely
with it.
unrelated. Multi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I also have a baby, but we're getting actually a little bit past the whole staying up all night thing. Although there's some days where you're he likes to change it up on us. But we didn't notice a huge change with daylight savings with him. But he's just such a noob. Doesn't even matter. He doesn't even know how to play. He needs to L2P.
He's slacking on that gold farming for you in WoW.
Yeah, but I'm wanting him to pick that up one day. That lagging balls Discord has given me some ideas today.
Nice.
There's some ways to raise your children well, and I'm going to explore them.
There is.
That's all I'm going to say at this point.
Just, they get into elementary school. Dad, let me play World of Warcraft. Do your homework first, and then you can go
pocket heal
pick crops and
and
mine
you can
ore.
pocket heal me.
That's what they were saying in the Discord today, dude. You raise your own pocket
All right,
healer.
kids. All right, kids. Do your schoolwork, and then we can play Team League.
Just get into their settings to where they can't target anyone but you. Be great.
Oh yeah, and just like Lieutenant Morales, the beam on me all the time. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Done deal.
It's technically I'm only one kid away from a full 5-man Team League. So
There you go.
So you're trying for that then, right?
you got to get the Team League going.
Of course.
I mean, me, the wife, and 3 kids. It may take like 7 to 9 years before they can all do it, but you guys talked about how Heroes is going to be around for forever last week, so I got time. I'm playing the long game.
That's
long game.
You can set up, like, starting now, set up your future aspirations to become a family of full-time streamers. There was a stream I used to watch a while back where it was a family that just did World of Warcraft dungeons together, and it was awesome. It was good.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It was neat. But let's go ahead and get into some of this week's stuff. It is Heroes of the Storm podcast after all. So I imagine, have we been playing some Heroes? TBK, I know you said you've been up late, because I know you and I at least have been playing some Vermintide. So, but
we have been playing some Vermintide, and Vermintide 2 just came out. And just as a side note, if you played the first one, it is way better than the first one. And if you're a big fan of Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2, this really scratches that itch, since Valve hates games these days, apparently. But no, I've been playing quite a bit of Heroes, some unranked draft. I jumped in with some West Coast people who I don't normally get to play as much with because of the 2-hour time difference.
Right.
But now, staying up late, it's just like, oh yeah, I'll be up for a few more hours. No biggie. Let's play, guys. So I've gotten some fun games in. It's been good.
Yeah.
It's relaxing after a day taking care of the baby and the toddler. It's nice to be able to sit down and stomp some people, play some Twin Blades.
So, what heroes have you been playing lately? Did the class change up your pool at all? Inspire you to play anyone else?
It honestly did. I've been on a Stukov kick.
Okay.
And because he is so much fun, especially if you are in a team and can combo him with, say, Maev or Nazebo, where you can get that Warden's Cage or the zombie wall and get a lurking arm directly underneath it. Anything that does a big stun, even a mouth root where you can throw the lurking arm underneath, just is so ridiculously strong. And so I've been having a lot of fun with him. Of course, my Twin Blade Varian, he's my go-to. I got to play a few games every once in a while. Me and Jay Howe will get a kick going. He's fairly busy these days, but we always every once in a while do Abathur Twin Blade Varian, and
nice.
It is we legitimately have played probably 30 or 40 games over a long period of time as this combo, and we are at like an 85% win rate with it.
Not
it
bad.
Is absolutely ridiculous. So
Jay Howe confirmed HGC's most toxic caster.
or most toxic combo.
Yeah.
easily. So have you changed in your own mind your acronym TBK? Are you officially Twin Blades Kappa Zord?
TBK can mean many things. So if you want it to mean that, you are welcome.
I
answered to it in guild chat.
I saw that the other day.
Yeah,
yeah.
because a lot of us are in the Legging Balls WoW guild, and I had said hi the other day, and someone was just like, "It's Twin Blades Kappa Sword." I was just like, "Oh my goodness, it's spreading."
Excellent. Multi, how about you? What have you been up to? And has the Clash changed your hero pool that you're currently playing at all?
It honestly did a little bit. It got me more excited for Blaze than I even already was. And I was already pretty excited for him. So I really liked seeing how well Blaze did pretty much throughout the entire tournament, and just found him fun to watch. And I'm still taking the, what's it called? Combustion.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, I still think it's the better quick match pick. It's really hard to get a team that can get a lot out of the bunker drop per se. I mean, you can yourself, I guess, but so yeah, he's been a lot of fun. I've honestly been playing a good amount of WoW as well, but then Hearthstone naturally. And I wanted to point out one really quick thing. So they just announced the new Hearthstone expansion, right? The Witchwood coming out in about a month. And so I made this point on Hearth Casual, but I got to make it here as well, because there's a really weird comparison going on here. So with the new expansion and the new year coming out, they're releasing Lunara as the Druid hero class, like an alternate hero that you can use instead of Malfurion. And then, so the whole expansion is this like kind of Halloween spooky theme, right? Like haunted woods and all this other stuff. Kind of reminds you of Towers of Doom a little bit, right? And then they're also releasing Greymane as a card. So Lunara, Greymane, Towers of Doom. Is this reminding anyone of Heroes of the Storm at BlizzCon 2015? Almost exactly.
Wow.
That's true.
I think there's a conspiracy going on here, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Very interesting.
I like it. I also like how Heroes specific stuff is actually kind of, and it's done it before with StarCraft a little bit, has kind of moved to other games.
Yeah.
As well. Because I'm pretty sure Lunara is a Heroes creation.
I think she's from she's from old Warcraft, because she's like
Cenarius' daughter.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if she was if there was generic unit or not.
No, yeah, she's definitely
they
Cenarius'
brought
daughter.
some generic unit, because Brightwing was generic unit, right?
Yes.
And then
they
got turned
added
into
her
a
in.
thing, and then they added her into WoW in Legion.
She's a follower.
as a follower. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Druid follower.
Yeah, I don't know. It may have just been Dryads. You're right. Like
Yeah, I'm not positive.
unit.
I do know that Heroes has created a few things that have leaked to their respective franchises, which I think is really cool.
No, we need more of that
Probius.
across all the games.
Actually, I don't know if Probius is a thing officially in StarCraft.
Not in StarCraft yet.
Yeah.
But
Maybe.
he should be. Allied Commander. Maybe. That'd be kind of cool.
For myself, the Clash has actually changed my pool here a little bit. So I've been playing some Thrall, because I hadn't played him in forever, and his damage can be ridiculous now late game. As well as the Clash, plus the fact that I played a lot of Firebat during our Creators of the Storm tournament has gotten me kind of into him. I'm potentially slightly transitioning more to tank than assassin. I haven't completely decided yet, because I've been playing a lot of ETC as well. I don't know. I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out where my sweet spot is currently with the meta. So hopefully in the next few weeks I iron that out. But let's go ahead, hop on into some of the new stuff here. For our patrons, last week we showed our first patron art piece that was done by Alarak of the Storm. And so if you are a current patron, you should have gotten the post here that has the high-res version of that image that goes to all of our patrons. Doesn't matter the tier. So hope you all enjoyed that as much as we did. And actually, TBK's here, so we can actually ask him some questions to figure out what all this stuff is. Were we right?
Yeah, I didn't.
Were we right on the
okay,
scorecards?
Let's see here. Let me pull it up here real fast.
Because you helped collaborate on
So
it, right?
I did. A lot of the look was my idea, and then he just took it and made it absolutely incredible. So yes, so from the franchise perspective, we thought it would be really funny, just because he's Alarak of the Storm and Alarak, to be giving the 0.5 because that's just an Alarak thing to do.
Oh, of course. Of course.
It didn't have anything specifically to do with the lore knowledge, but I think that's really funny because it does kind of line up with that really well because none of us are big StarCraft people and we're all big WoW people and then like medium-ish Diablo people.
Yeah, and Alaric was just looking like really disappointed and embarrassed, so that's it fits well.
But he always does that.
It's kind of his MO. So is Diablo giving us a 5.7 or a 7.5? How did he think through the digits there?
It's I think it's a 7.5, but he wrote it backwards.
Gotcha. Okay, that's not so bad then. That's not so bad.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. Like the whole thing is we tried to do callbacks. So the whole Greg Sylvanas thing, that's been a thing since early
That's
episode.
been a thing since Sylvanas was announced.
Yeah,
like
yes.
alpha, right?
early episodes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know Arthas is one of your favorite heroes, so we did something where Arthas is training you how to use Frostmourne, and that's what you're being judged on. Alarak was not impressed, and then I love the detail. I'm playing Hearthstone with Nova and Varian, of course, two of my favorite heroes to play. I got the twin blades going on with Varian, who's watching on, and I love the little detail he added. You can see I'm playing a priest deck.
Yes, I
and
saw
Nova's
that.
playing
Yeah.
a rogue deck.
I thought that was really cool.
See the tiny little things.
I didn't notice the tic-tac-toe until like today. I was looking at it again.
Yeah. So it's just a lot of really cool little details. He did an absolutely amazing job with it.
It was, for sure. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do. And remember, to get that high-res version, you just got to be a patron, period. You don't have to be a certain tier or anything like that. So check it out. Now let's hop on into the news. First up, Heroes of the Dorm has been going on for quite some time now. Currently, I believe we're still in the regional championships, so each region's kind of going through their own bracket. But starting on the 28th is when we officially enter the final 64 team bracket. That'll be going March 28th through April 19th. So I expect sometime next week we'll be getting information about putting your brackets in for the challenge, seeing what the prizes are for that this year. I know we've had some listeners mostly do really well in the past, like really, really well. So hopefully that continues.
Winning it?
Yeah.
About as well as you can do without giving away too much.
And I've done
I did really well last year. I was in the top 50.
That's pretty good.
Last year.
What'd you get for top 50?
It was like the skin codes and such.
Nice.
That's still cool.
I was in like the top, I don't know, nothing.
I feel like, didn't we know details about the contest portion before this point in previous years, though? Or did we not?
I don't know.
I think it's usually announced when the fantasy brackets stuff
come out. Okay.
Comes out. Yeah.
So it's still
and so that should come soon because we still got about 14 days before the bracket play starts. So yeah, probably either Friday, early next week, we'll see some bracket stuff. What I do really hope is that we get an actual Heroic 4 location more than 2 weeks ahead of time this year. Like if April 19th is the end of bracket play, that means that the Heroic 4 will probably be April 20 something.
Right.
Is what I'm assuming, because the 19th is a Thursday. So my guess would be somewhere in that 27 to 29th range would be when the Heroic 4 is, because it usually takes place over a weekend unless they just do that, just go straight into it, but I doubt it. There's probably some leeway time in there.
Yeah.
So if that's a reasonable guess for the date. I really, really hope that they give us an actual location early, so those people that want to go can have more than 2 weeks of planning time for plane tickets and hotels and such. Because I know in the past I've always wanted to go to this finals for this, but they've always announced the actual live location so late that just from a work slash money slash booking perspective, it's been almost impossible.
Yeah. And you would think it would be like the week and a half or whatever after the bracket play ends, but it still says TBD even on the date. So technically it could be like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it could be early May.
Who knows? So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. But again, keep your eyes out for any news peeled for those fantasy brackets to get those filled out. Last week, we continued our conversation about the next hero. And we talked about last week how it was said that there would be a hero reveal this week. So we're halfway through the week. Nothing so far. I am guessing Friday is when we will hear, hopefully, something. Potentially, do you think they could do something with the Western Clash?
You mean the Eastern Clash?
Eastern Clash, yes.
I'm not. I think potentially yes. I mean, that's going to be a big streaming audience, right? So, of all the time to do a reveal, that wouldn't be a bad time by any means. Although I'm a little surprised if they were going to do that they wouldn't have said something by now.
Well, yeah, because
to let people know, because like that starts this weekend.
Yeah, maybe they'll
and it's Wednesday night.
Maybe they'll announce the hero Friday and then be like, Saturday or Sunday after the first match is when they'll do the hero spotlight.
The little spotlight. Yeah, that could be. Usually they like to have some big thing for the clashes if the stuff lines up. This is definitely one of the longest times we've ever had to wait. I know you guys talked about it a little bit last week. Getting a little antsy.
It is
like, because we think it's StarCraft to kind of coincide with the StarCraft anniversary event. It kind of makes sense. There's been rumblings. Yeah, there's been rumblings from a few articles that have talked about potentially a StarCraft hero. So it's kind of just, I think for the most part at this point, it's like, what StarCraft hero is it?
And I'm going to admit, so last week and stuff we were talking, I was like, well, if it's next week, that's still okay. It's getting a little long. If for some reason it's not this week, I will officially say it's way too long. Right. I'm getting, like you said, I'm getting antsy here. And it feels weird going from a constant schedule to this being 2 weeks later plus than we're used to. So yeah, we think it's going to be StarCraft here. A couple weeks ago, we had that Diablo Dragonshire thing. Do you think that's just like a loading screen or something at some point now? Or do you think that's potentially a leak to the hero after the StarCraft hero? Or do you still think there's a chance that maybe they're not doing anything with the StarCraft anniversary and we'll get that possible Diablo hero? Or Anduin. I still vote Anduin.
So I think this will kind of bleed into our next topic a little bit, because I think we will get a StarCraft hero reveal this week.
Okay.
But as is on the schedule, PAX is coming up soon. And right. Heroes of the Storm has an event on Thursday, April 5th from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. That says, do you remember the moment when you first experienced a Blizzard game? Can you remember the hero or character you played that cemented your love for Blizzard? Join the Heroes of the Storm development team to discuss the magic behind creating characters that leave a lasting impression and get a front row seat for the introduction of one of the most unlikely heroes from Blizzard's history
Deckard Cain.
To join the Nexus yet.
It's Deckard Cain.
Exactly. But I think the correlation is there between potentially that being like an upcoming asset, and this kind of rolled all in together, that just screams Deckard Cain to me.
It does, but he's not truly unlikely, right? I
he's
mean, he's one we've
completely
always
unlikely.
expected.
We've
one we've always
expected
expected.
because of the theme of Heroes of the Storm, but it's super unlikely that, like, Deckard Cain, old guy from Diablo 3 who's really had no impact besides
Could
being
fight
like the
Diablo himself.
yeah,
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 I
that's a
think
fair
I
point.
think I
and
think
died.
he's not like a traditional hero you would expect. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily people don't want him, but I think the way they implement him is going to be unexpected and very unique. And
Good point.
what I assume, and I talked about this a few weeks ago when we talked about there hasn't been a specialist in forever. Who better to be a specialist than Deckard Cain to have some ridiculously off the wall, unexpected, wacky kit
And I hope it is.
that no one. I do too.
I
That
truly
no one
hope
could
it's
guess.
super powerful, and he's like the entire time through all of those games, he was hiding his immense power to control like the forces of heaven and hell and all this stuff. Oh, it'd be
I
so
want
cool.
him to be able to control, like, summon minions that are the
Yeah, yeah.
Whimsyshire unicorns and teddy bears.
So it's just Whimsyshire.
I don't know, but yeah,
Ramsey
I,
Shire
good.
Cain.
I'm super intrigued to, one, see if it is him, to see what the heck they're gonna do with this kit, because this will be probably to date the most innovative and open they can be with a kit's design of any hero they've done in the game.
Right.
Because literally
Yeah,
all
it's-
he's
it's
done
a
in the
blank
game is
slate.
sit around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much as blank of a slate as you can get, besides like either having an ability or a quest
Let's stay a while and
that's
listen.
called Stay a While and Listen.
And I will
He
say,
could also help identify things somehow.
yeah, like
That's all I got.
like 2 years ago, I said he's gonna have an ult that's stay a while and listen, and it's gonna be like, it's gonna have a cast time, and it's gonna be an AOE, and all it's going to do is put everyone to sleep for like 4 seconds. Everyone, including your team,
Yeah.
and
everyone.
himself. He's asleep as well.
Well, he's standing there telling the story, right?
Well, he puts himself to sleep. I don't know.
So you just have to
Yeah.
get a huge minion push going, and then it's just like, all right, everybody, time out.
It's like a mini
for like
3-2-3.
5 seconds.
Yeah, it's like call a
Yeah.
timeout real quick. All right.
But
We'll
the
give it a
minions
30
keep
seconds,
pushing.
like basketball. It's like, all right, 30-second timeout. What are we doing here? All right, we got Li Ming by herself in the back line. Anyone got any abilities off cooldown here that we can, get her Medivh? How's your portal? Is it looking good? It's going to happen. Extend
Especially
those
if the
game
abilities
times.
are still ticking. Like it's not a stasis. It's just sleep. I like it.
But unfortunately, that would give the other team the
I know.
exact same amount of time. except you Blizzard, while the ult is going, could disable voice chat for the enemy team, and all you hear in
Yeah.
your speakers is Deckard Cain just going blah, 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 blah.
That's brilliant.
Yes.
Oh, they could totally play with voice chat in that way. That's it. Just in general, it would kind of remind me of some of the borders you get when you get swallowed by a Stitch's gorge and that sort of thing.
Like if you just hear
How the
muffled sounds.
changes. Yeah, changing voice chat in that way would be super interesting. I don't think they'll do it, but I'm all for it.
But again, that panel is going to be at PAX on April 5th from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. At the Albatross Theater. If you're going to be there live, I do believe these are streamed. I'm hoping, actually, I'm going to say
I would
yes, it is
assume
going to be
so,
streamed
yeah.
if they're introducing a hero. So make sure
Right.
and keep your eyes peeled for that. Reddit post about, what could it possibly be about on Reddit, Heroes of the Storm? Matchmaking and MMR and ranked play. That's what it's about.
Who saw that coming?
So it's just a nice clarification here, because they've kind of talked about how their system works. If you don't play a certain amount of games, how reseeding works. And Chump2412 made this post that's titled Blizzard MMR System Not Working as Intended, 2018 Season 2. So he pretty much just had a question on the whole reseeding thing, about he was under the impression if you did not play 15 ranked games from last season, your MMR is reseeded from unranked draft or quick match. And kind of went on to give an example of where things were seeded. Blizz Travis came back and said reseeding only happens if their unranked draft match, MMR, or quick match, if there's not enough undraft games, is significantly different from their ranked MMR. So the whole point of reseeding is just to make sure the system is using the most up-to-date data. So if their MMR in unranked or quick is close to their MMR in ranked mode, no reseeding is done regardless of game count in the previous season. And then there was another clarification. How many are not enough unranked draft games? And he said he thinks it's about 15 still. So I honestly, I haven't hopped into Hero League yet. I feel like I've seen a few things on Twitter of some potentially wonky stuff still happening in ranked play. I don't know. I'm not ready to dive back into that yet, I don't think.
I have heard good things from people who have been playing Hero League for this season, specifically because of voice chat. People have said it has improved their Hero League experience quite a bit. And I think we have a question later on where we'll dive into that specific subject a little bit deeper. But I've heard pretty much just mostly positive across the board. Now, performance-based matchmaking or performance-based MMR, still not there. I really want that. That's the push I'm waiting for to really dive back in just because of time constraints.
Yeah, and we were kind of expecting that when they made the latest announcement of it would be seen in a future season, but that it wasn't ready again. We kind of assumed it wasn't going to be here for season 2, so fingers crossed still for season 3. See if they have any updates on that coming out, but yeah, still.
Because when it comes out, it's going to come with fanfare and hype and or at least
I would assume so
post.
at this point now. Yeah,
and hopefully pass with flying colors. Hopefully.
Yes.
But the good news is there have not been any resets or anything this season as far as placement games, so things have run very smooth on that end. Thankfully.
Yeah, and that's good.
Mm-hmm. So we do have some more HGC to discuss this week. All right, TBK. So Multi and I got into the discussions for Western Clash last week. I know you watched. So we're going to get to some questions for you, but you also had found this nice article from Team Liquid on the Western Clash as well.
Yeah, Team Liquid, Larkin specifically, one of the writers, did a really good kind of wrap up what we learned from the Western Clash and has some really interesting information. Just to go over the highlights, Maev and Blaze were incredibly impactful. I think that goes without saying. Maev alone had a 100% popularity rate. In the 40% of games she wasn't banned, she scored a 67% win rate. Now remember, this is one. She'd only had one nerf patch in Western Clash. We got an extra,
the nerfs.
Yeah, it was between the second round of nerfs.
So she still had the passive armor.
I believe so.
Yeah, she had the
if that was in the second round of nerfs.
10 instead of 15.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But so she wasn't quite as neutered as she currently is on live.
Well, Spayed, probably.
Ha.
Because
Dang it.
Title of this episode: Spayed, not neutered.
Oh my gosh, killing me. Moving on to Blaze in the Warrior department. Blaze rocked into first place with a pick rate of 75% and a 93% overall involvement rate, which is absolutely insane, and almost a 60% win rate. A lot of this was Blaze is just a super flexible warrior. You can use him. You can use him in a lot of places, and holy crap, did we see Bunker used to absolutely insane value.
Yeah, and I don't think we saw combustion once, did we?
If it was, it probably wasn't more than once or twice, because Bunker is such a short cooldown, such an impactful heroic. It's basically an instacast. So we saw him Blaze like dodging tracer pulse bombs with bunker and
yeah.
teams just jumping in and out for the extra armor.
Does it just
and
clear the
quick
bomb?
status.
Like,
Yeah.
is it considered a debuff, and so it just gets cleared when you go inside?
I think so.
I believe so too. Yeah, no, it's super defensive, and what teams were often doing too was using Blaze and then also Sanctification from Tyrael to just double up on. Okay, the group fight's happening, but we're going to be immune for it for like 8 seconds
for all of their cooldowns.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, yeah, very good point.
Yeah. So I have been playing a lot of Blaze lately. He is a ton of fun. We haven't seen a balance patch for a little bit. I assume partially because of Eastern Clash, and I haven't been able to find any information on Eastern Clash, but I would assume they'll be using current live patch for the tournament.
It'll be interesting to see how that impacts Maiev.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would be Maiev, and that would be with the Medivh and the Sonya rework if they do that. So that'll be really interesting, because I really hope we do see some Sonya, because she got a lot of build flexibility with her talent rework. So that could be really interesting to see, because she has fallen off quite a bit recently. Classic supports were still great. The Western support went full old school. Alexstrasza, Ana, Ariel, Lieutenant Morales were nowhere to be seen. And support staples of only a few months ago, like Brightwing, Lucio, and Karazim, were a rare sight. Stukov, as an outlier, was picked 19 times in total, 13 of those by Zealots, who also had the only wins due to Shad's prowess on the hero. That's what made me want to play Stukov so much. Zealots absolutely killed with him. It was impressive. But Uther, Malfurion, and then Rhaegar as well seemed to dominate most of the support play. And this is kind of like an Eastern Clash thing too. Be watching, because the Eastern side loves Karazim.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and also if they are going to be playing on our current patch, this is the patch with Ana changes as well. So that might be something to look for too, especially since you will have some self-sustain for herself.
Not self-sustain for someone else.
Exactly, because that's what self-sustain is.
So we have We have two episode titles possible here. We have Spayed Not Neutered, or Self-Sustain for Yourself.
Gosh, killing me.
Either one's good.
Oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. But I really do hope we see some Ana, because I'm really interested to see if those changes have made her competitively viable, or if we might see a little bit of double support make its way back in with some of the changes. But Larkin does note it's clear that Ariel is probably going to need some changes in order to become competitively viable again. And
my buddy Tank Zord, Steven, of the former Cavalry, he's been playing a ton of Ana. He was telling me he's loving her.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things for the small tweaks she got and the self-sustain she has now. North America is not that bad. It's true. We did really well. You guys talked about it last week. These were the first full sets we've taken off Europe in quite some time. Even our fourth seed having some amazing showing, and Tempo Storm doing really a pretty admirable job. EU, though, Zealots, absolutely amazing. They really showed their thing. I believe they played 14 games in a row.
Yep.
At the end of that,
up to the end,
absolutely insane.
All the way to the last group fight.
All the way to the last group fight. It's just mind blowing. And not only that, they played all those games in a row. They took some losses from Dignitas in the middle of that, and then still rallied, and on game 11 or 12. So huge respect for those guys. They just insane.
It's a kind of weird thing, because I think some people hear like, oh, they played 14 games in a row. I don't think some people, or most people, probably understand how big of a deal that is because you can go
That is
you
exhausting.
well, you can binge like a day of heroes where like Saturday I'm just gonna play heroes all day, hero league, things like that, and you can get tired but feel fine. But even when we played in the Creators of the Storm tournament, when you're playing in like a tournament setting to where you have moments where like adrenaline like full on like is pumping and getting you jacked, when that goes down, like the adrenaline levels going up and down is exhausting, because we only played what 1, 2, 3, 5 games, and they weren't even in a row, and we were exhausted after that day.
Well, and the two
From the
tournaments can't even
Creators
be
tournament?
compared.
Yeah.
Like
oh yeah.
Well, no, that
these
but I'm
folks
just saying
are
like
playing at the top of their game on what's basically a world stage. I
Yeah.
mean, with EU being such a strong region and NA getting up there, I can't even imagine being in the land setting like that for that many games in a row and just having your adrenaline up the entire time, pretty much.
I'm just saying, like,
Maybe
I
that's
don't
how you
think
do it.
most people have played in a tournament setting, like full team, where they're experiencing that, because it's even different from team league. So it's
Oh, yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge props to them. Like the amount of stamina it took to keep that going and come down to the last team fight was insane. And then of course the big shout out to Sonic, the sub for Fnatic, who did an absolutely incredible job. It just goes, and I believe he's playing in an EU Open Division team right now. I would be extremely surprised if we don't see him in HGC either in phase 2 or next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like super impressive. And then finally just a few interesting tidbits from this. Hero diversity in the tournament was very low, with 32 heroes actually going unpicked. And the writer says hopefully the midseason brawl will see a bit more diversity, and that is true. It's not necessarily that this is an unexciting meta, but we are at a place right now where it's a very narrow support stream, a very narrow carry stream being picked.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons. Like this is something that's just bound to happen once you hit a certain marker on amount of heroes that's in the game. It's gonna kind of narrow itself down to what is like the meta right now. To where in the past, we'd seen. I think there was one tournament either last year or the year before where we saw like all but just a few heroes picked, which was insane, because like that doesn't happen in other MOBAs. So that's kind of another reason potentially we're slowing down the hero release.
We gotta remember too that this is pro play, and so pro players will exploit the tiniest power balances.
Mm-hmm. Oh, any edge they can get.
Yeah, any edge they can get. So it does not mean that these 32 heroes were bad. In fact, I mean, we were playing the reverse draft in Creators of the Storm, and we had a hard time drafting to the opponents because most of the heroes are pretty decent. But you just kind of have to accept that in pro play, you'll most likely get a smaller hero pool, just because of the fact that if there are just tiny differences in power, the pros are always going to go for that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's true in every game. I mean, you don't pick every card in Hearthstone to play in like the HCT finals, Yeah. You choose what's good and what works.
It doesn't mean that the heroes you didn't see are bad and that you shouldn't play them. It just means that the pro players might be able to optimize these others more so than the average person and get that little bit extra out of them.
Right.
So average game length was only 18 and a half-ish minutes compared to 20 or so of other tournaments. The short game times are indicative of how quickly teams are using an advantage to create game-ending situations, which is pretty interesting. Towers of Doom, the most popular map, though due in no small part to how NA feels on it. This led to some great long games. On the other hand, Braxis was only played a single time. Volskaya is much more interesting now that the Protector actually does something, and is starting to look like a much better map than Warhead. And we did see Volskaya several times throughout the tournament. And then third ban win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I love that the article ends on that.
Yeah, third ban win. It also points out Vandy did an admirable job the first appearance. She did a really, really good job.
She did.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I thought she blended really well with the other casters. But yeah, third ban, that's something we're going to see that talk just rile up more and more, especially as midseason brawl comes up, as more heroes enter the game, as the meta gets more, quote, stale. And as we start seeing these bigger numbers, these 32 heroes going unpicked, the talk of the third ban is going to start heating back up again, because when you can ban 2 more of those heroes that you pick all the time, it makes you think differently and opens up draft diversity in a way that it just wasn't before.
For sure.
Could make it super interesting.
For sure. So backing up here just a little bit to North America is not that bad. I want to ask you the same question I asked Multi here last week, TBK, and that is, there's I don't think there's any doubt that North America has improved here, but do you think they showed better than they actually are because of how they prioritized Maev towards the beginning in the first couple rounds versus Europe? Because it didn't seem like Europe prioritized her that much until they started having some teams dropping, and then we had the rematches. Bam, Maev is banned, not letting North America get her. Now they're coming out on top.
I think it's a more of a meta comfortability thing and how fast a team can adapt to different styles of play, because you've got your mechanical skill, and that's a measurable thing you can have between teams, and that can get better or worse over time just on its own skill line, basically. But as far as meta goes, each team has a separate skill line for meta adaptation. Some teams, and we've seen this over the years, do really, really well in a certain meta, like double support or like double tank or something, something like that. Yeah, triple tank. Some teams do really well. Some teams have a really hard time adapting to it. It could be partially that this last big patch with Maev and everything coming out, that NA teams were just quicker to adapt to it and take it on and exploit her. And maybe European teams did not put as much stock into her as they should have. Maybe they were a little slower on that patch's meta uptick, or maybe they thought they could deal with her.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's a lot of possible explanations, but I think a lot of it is basically on those 2 lines. You have the mechanical skill up and down line, and then you have the meta adaptation up and down line. And different teams have different strengths, and so some teams will naturally be stronger in certain metas because of the players, and then some teams will just overall be mechanically skilled and be able to adapt to the meta as it comes, rather than being stuck in a specific meta. And those are the teams that are going to take it all. And Dignitas just specifically has shown they're very good at both of those.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Next off, this weekend, the Eastern Clash begins on March 16th in Taipei. And this is going to be basically the same tournament format. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about formats in a listener question later. But it'll be the exact same tournament format. You'll have the double elimination. Day 1 will be best of 3. All remaining will be best of 5, except for the best of 7 grand finals, with the upper bracket team getting a 1-0 in their favorite start. There is a hype trailer for it, which is absolutely bonkers. You should go watch it because it's amazing. The link will be in the show notes. And then the casters for the Eastern class will be Jhow, Kaldor, Trixler, Dreadnought, Kendrick Swish, and Wolf. So interestingly, Gilly is not a part of the Gilly or Vandy are not a part of the caster set here. And I believe earlier on they talked about Gilly doing part of phase 1 and Dread doing the other part.
Yes, Dread.
Yes,
Dread's
right.
coming
I
back
think-
for phase 2 with
Yeah.
Dread and
J-How.
J-Ho will return.
So I assume that this is now Gilly's phase 1 exit
Mhm.
right here. And it'll be interesting to see if she's doing other projects or anything separate from casting.
Well, but Kendrick Swish and Wolf they normally cast the Asian games, right?
Yes,
APAC
Wolf
region?
Wolf is the Korean caster, along with G Clef, I believe, and then Kendrick Swish and Tesher have been casting all of the HGC China games.
Right. So
And
I mean,
they've
you
been
had
doing
to
a
make
great
room
job.
for them anyway.
Sure. So it's a great team, and I'm glad they're bringing Wolf and Kendrick because they will bring that knowledge with them, that firsthand knowledge. And I'm sure there's going to be some pretty insane games. I believe three Chinese teams are coming. Here it is. 4 spots for Korea, 3 spots for China, and 1 spot for Taiwan for the Eastern Clash this year.
Also, so worth mentioning for the Western Clash, I was right. Last year, it was not just North America and Europe. We did have Australia, New Zealand, and South America, or Latin America teams as well.
So interestingly, because ANZ has their own league format now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They've got their, which is really cool that they've kind of developed that region a little more. And of course, we'll see Latin America and ANZ in the mid-season brawl as they come up to that from this new HGC ANZ tournament frame. I hope we see the same for Latin America because they do seem to have kind of been left out a little bit.
Yeah, as much as I loved the Western Clash being like in a EU rivalry and getting to see, especially in the first set, NA versus EU in every match, it does kind of seem like those regions got snubbed a little bit, and I feel like that things like that will not help the growth of those regions. So I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. The teams that are playing right now, Tempest versus LM, and this is Friday at 12:40 a.m. Central Time. So if
That's
you want
actually
to stay
better than
if you want to stay up late,
yeah.
instead of having to get up early, then you're in luck.
That would still
Tempest
be
versus-
Thursday night, kind of. I've still got to work that day.
I mean, most of us would still have to work Friday morning. So, but Tempest versus LM will start the day. The One versus KSV Black. Second, SPT versus Team Blossom, and then Ballistics versus CE to round out. And then there'll be 2 more lower bracket Friday games. before
That
we move
last
to
one,
Saturday.
Ballistics and CE.
That'll be a good one. I probably won't be able to watch near as many of these live as I did with the Western Clash, but I will definitely be watching the VODs for this. There is bound to be some pretty insane matches.
Sure, you can watch it. You'll just have a crying baby in your arms the whole time. And it's fine. That'll keep you up at those hours. Yeah? You're just gonna leave me hanging?
I'm gonna try and be sleeping.
Okay. Good luck.
But if he
You
does
get-
wake up,
If
he
you have
has
a small
something
baby,
to entertain
you
him.
get as much You get as much sleep as you possibly can,
Oh, yeah.
and then
Yeah, you
when
sleep
you
when
have
they
to be
do.
up, you're up. Exactly.
Mhm.
But I'm very much looking forward to this. This should be a really good deal. And then finally, for the HGC side of things, we have another interview with Sam Braithwaite on just from the Western Clash side of things on HGC and what they're focusing on in the future. You guys had an article last week where he talked a little bit about
The store.
the heroes, store disappearing, and he talked a little bit about no, it's not going away. They got a lot of content focused. So I wanted to run through kind of the highlights of this interview and then discuss that a little bit because there's is some really interesting stuff, in here. And so he's pretty excited so far about what they've done with HGC in 2018 compared to 2017. The Western Clash, of course, much more competitive this year, which is fantastic because that's really what everybody wants to see. It's not that fun to see a one region dominant clash. It just like maybe it is for some people, but I'd rather it be super back and forth the whole time. Also, HGC Cheer 2.0 will be coming out in May, and apparently they've made a lot of adjustments and changes to that, which is exciting. You guys will see a little bit of that later, but overall very happy. So that's pretty cool. I really enjoyed the little HGC Cheer system, and so if they can just expand and build on that for the second phase, then I think I'd be pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
Let's see. He talks about how he thinks coaches are actually one of the big reasons we're starting to see some of these teams start getting a little closer in skill level, which is really good. A lot of the top teams do have coaches now, both on the European and the NA side. He also talks about the overall growth in viewership that HGC has experienced from 2017 to 2018. And interestingly enough, he's pretty transparent about it. So he said, in general, to be transparent, the start of this year has been a little slower compared to the start of last year. He noted that peak viewership this year is actually higher than it was last year, but concurrent viewers are down a little bit. So he said, we're noticing this as a trend across a lot of esports right now. The reality of the situation is Fortnite, PUBG, and a whole battle royale phenomenon is dominating a lot of people's bandwidth in terms of entertainment and what they're watching on Twitch and what they're playing. So for us, the game is still doing very well. We're trying to figure out on our end, how do we get those turn users back and engaged again? It's something that we're targeting and that we're focusing on, but we're optimistic. It's one of those things that it's natural and it happens all the time. Diablo 3 was a MOBA killer for a few months when it came out, when I was working on Heroes of Neutered. The game really killed our viewership. It's natural, games will come and go, but that core audience is still there and engaging on a regular basis, and we're really happy with that. So that was actually a really interesting statement by them.
And then he gives ways to fix this and bring eyeballs back, and it's super interesting. So go for it. This is my favorite part.
This is my favorite and not my favorite part, because they asked him, like, okay, how do we get those eyeballs back on then? And so he said, one of the things we're trying to do, and we're always thinking about, is how to convert players into viewers. Only so many people that play the game actually engage and watch esports across any game, no matter what, and tapping into that audience is difficult. One of the directions we're heading down and that we're really focusing on is content guides and leveling up the player base. We've been putting out a lot of content on our website, which they have actually been putting quite a bit more out than they did last year, about becoming a better player, making sure that we're giving players the tools to escalate their game. One of the things you'll see coming out in the next couple of months is a crossover of the actual Main Heroes website and the HGC website. So you could go into the Main Heroes site, go look at a hero, look up their stuff, and then have links and stats from HGC, potentially even builds from HGC games that you can link to straight from the Main Heroes site.
Not just builds, but based on like what battleground they're popular on, win rates, percentage of talent breakdowns, guides from pro players that have played those heroes. This is the part that really excites me here.
It's really cool, and I think it'll help some, but I think
you just want it in the client, I assume.
It needs to be. It's got to be in the client. It has to be in the client. Like the amount of people that go to the websites cannot be that amazing. I mean, honestly, yes, you will get some more people, but if you really want to target the player base, put this stuff in the freaking client. Throw an educational /community tab in there. throw an HGC tab in the client where you can click on it and see an embedded player of HGC games going on, potentially even a like internal client version of the HGC esports website that is optimized for viewability inside the client itself. Have a community/educational tab where you can get, as a content creator, verified by Blizzard, and then post up guides and such within the client that people can have easy access to.
How's this idea? So take this Malfurion example once more, but say I'm a fairly new player and I'm looking at Malf for the first time, kind of reading what his abilities do and clicking through some of the talents and all that sort of thing, maybe even before purchasing him. And then there's a link there that takes you to this site that they're talking about, or a version of it within the client that again would show some of these other stats, like what are the top builds, et cetera, et cetera.
That to me makes sense. That makes so much sense. That it's all done within the client, because that's where people are. That's where your player base is. Most of your player base is not on the website. I mean, we've already established that it's hard to turn players into viewers. So what better way to turn players into viewers than putting the stuff in front of your face in an easily accessible way and keeping it within the client, so I'm not having to go externally. I think that's what they really need to do to make this successful and to add on and convert more people.
I do agree that I think all those things are amazing and that they would definitely help. But I also still think that we are, as far as esports as a whole, are still just in a stage where we're going to have to undergo some just natural growth. I guess by natural growth, I mean like just keep taking steps that we are currently with things like Overwatch League to get more news on it. You know, ESPN covers esports and stuff like that now to get more eyes on it, but that it's going to take a while for that to happen, to get more eyes on it. But then when we have these tools in place, that's only going to help bolster those numbers. Because if you think about it, like when kids right now that are gaming, you know, perhaps it's starting to get the idea of kids that are good at games or really enjoy playing games are starting to see that esports are a thing. And that can be something that kids can be like, I want to be professional Overwatch player when I grow up. I want to be a Heroes of the Storm player. Because in traditional sports right now, not all of the fans, but a lot of fans grew up playing these sports, and, you know, kids that are into traditional sports and even adults now, a lot of them that are fans played those games and at some point in time had aspirations of that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. So of course they're watching, they're trying to get better. And I think that eventually esports will get into that role to where it'll be a big enough thing that people are watching it because either at some point in time when they were younger, they wanted to be a professional player, and now like they're just so into it that they're watching it, or that it's a big enough thing to where it's just naturally gathering more eyes.
That actually can be expanded to the gaming industry as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that as the older generation passes on, sadly, and as we start to replace them, I mean, when I'm 70, I'm going to be watching esports. I don't even know what's going to be out then. It's probably all going to be in our brains at that point. But let me tell you, my 70-year-old dad, not really watching them. I don't know why. He never got into video games. But
yeah, that's
generational
true.
gap.
That is a good point.
At least in my family. It's not in every family, but in mine for sure. So, yeah.
So really, really interesting stuff. I'm interested to see what Cheer 2.0 does, what this new merging of content does as well from a website, both the esports website and the main website perspective. Anything will help. It's not a bad thing by any means. I don't know if they have something up their sleeve for more in-game content like that, or if the client itself is just really hard to work with to do stuff like that. I mean, there's potential for that too. I don't know. So we'll see what the future holds, but it sounds like they recognize where some of their issues are, and they're moving to fix those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it can't be an easy thing to do. Cannot be an easy thing. I want to give a shout out to Critic Kitten here. He's been digging up some numbers in chat, just based on my Maev in a hypothesis. And so some of the numbers he came up with here, and I just lost it.
All
I
right.
just had it.
Nailing this.
That was riveting.
I
Get
just
back
had
to
it.
it.
In Twitch chat took me away from it.
Hmm.
And we are stalling.
And we are past
Somebody
that point.
do something
Anyway.
entertaining.
Do you know any good songs, TPK?
I do, but nothing you probably want to hear me sing on a podcast. I do have a community content shout out though.
I found it.
Okay.
Uh,
Finally. There we
so,
go.
respectively, on the days EU had picked Maev twice in day 1, once in day 2, and then 6 in day 3, whereas NA picked her 6 on day 1 and 3 on day 2. Of course, they didn't play in day 3. And then the bans for Maev on NA on day 1 was only 1, whereas EU banned her 5 times. Day 2, NA banned 3, EU banned 8, and then they banned her 9 on the 3rd day. So that does go to show that I believe NA put a much higher priority on her, and as EU realized that, yes, early on, and then as EU realized that, they were able to kind of nip that in the butt, and NA didn't have a backup plan as good as EU did. So thank you, Critic Kitten, and apologies for that awesome time stall. Well, I searched for that, everybody.
We made it work.
But now, to the community content shout out.
Oh yeah, there's no sound over
Let's
this.
do the community content shout out.
How many awkward breaks
Shout
do
out,
we have?
shout out.
Let's all just have a moment of silence. Please don't edit any of this.
Yeah. So speaking on educational content, one of the big issues with educational content is that if it's for anything super specific, then it can become outdated potentially very quickly, depending on how things are balanced. So some people have started switching to more general content that will last a little longer and, I guess, quote unquote, endure the test of time. MOBAs just being what they are, an ever evolving game. So I wanted to shout out McIntyre for his article on Heroes Hearth that he published a few days ago called "How to Draft a Basic Composition Part 1," which implies that there will probably be more parts. But in this case, he kind of goes through a little more generically the ideal team composition, how to draft things, wave clear that's important, the types of tanks that you want to draft, the types of damage, the types of healing you want to get. So I'll have that in the show notes. I linked it in our Twitch chat as well. I definitely recommend you go and take a look at this because it does have some really good advice that you can apply, not necessarily just specifically, just kind of across the board for your drafting play.
Yeah, and I like that he breaks it out by types too, because it's kind of like you said, these sorts of guides will stand the test of time because as they just add more anti-CC supports versus sustain supports, they'll just fit in those categories, and then the general tips here will stand.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's good.
That's the type of content. I mean, it's not bad to put out guides and stuff on specific heroes. It just means that you have to either keep them up to date, or it's very hard for a person to go look up a guide that's 6 months old sometimes in a MOBA game and how, especially if the hero's been reworked or something like that, and be able to apply that guide to the hero as it is now.
Well, we've had that happen on this show. I mean, when you think about it, we've had some weeks where we do the hero of the week, lay out this whole build, and then they get nerfed the next week, and we have to kind of come back and be like, yeah, remember what we told you on the 7 and 13 talent tiers? No, just don't even think about those anymore.
We're kind of like weathermen now, to where it's like, we want to bring you the latest as quick as possible, so we're going to predict the weather a month out, and it's not going to be right when it actually rolls around to that week. Except we're right for a week. So take that, weatherman.
That's right. And they're never right.
They're never right.
At least here in good old Missouri. I don't know about everywhere else.
That is correct. All right. We do have some listener questions to get to this week. So without further ado. I was really tempted to just not hit that for a while, just to
give us some dead air.
Add in another nice little dead air space. There we go. First one we have up here, who's actually in chat, we have Cheese Dog.
Yeah, so Cheese Dog writes, "Hello, guys. I recently started seeing a woman, and she is great, but I'm wondering, how do you suggest I let her know that I'm a big video game nerd? This is a whole side of myself that I value and enjoy. I just don't know how to break it to her. If you have any advice, please pass it along." So you wouldn't think I'd be the kind of person that would actually have even halfway decent relationship advice per se, but this is actually an area in which I have succeeded. So my wife is not a gamer. She's still a nerd for sure. In fact, in some ways she's more nerdy than I am, but like, I mean, she's very supportive of me doing the podcasts for sure, but she kind of thinks that Heroes of the Storm is just one big marketing ploy for Blizzard to sell its other games, and she can't wrap her head around like why I buy Hearthstone cards. She thinks they're just kind of JPEGs in my phone, essentially. So, I mean, she may not be wrong. Either of those may be correct to some degree. Like, I am not saying she doesn't get some of this, but clearly there's some aspects to it that she just doesn't get, and that's okay. So, what we did super early on, and I kind of brought it up on one of the early dates anyway. Because it's not really something that I kind of try to tuck away. I really can't. I actually just kind of open my mouth and nerdy stuff just starts falling out of it typically. So, I mean, that was just something I had to deal with initially. But honestly, like, I don't know. I think if you own it to a degree, it's a good thing. It comes off confident that way. And then also, like, the gaming industry is growing so much right now, as we've kind of been talking about this whole episode, that I don't think it's going to be a surprise to her to learn that you're a gamer. And then after that, it's actually more about time management than anything. So, I can still consider myself a gamer and actually internally build that as part of my persona. Like, people at work think of me as the gaming guy and that sort of thing as well. And I can do that without really, like, I don't know, going as nuts on World of Warcraft as I used to back in college, where sometimes I'd go entire weeks where I didn't even think about anything else other than World of Warcraft. So my point is, like, I think it's going to be fine. Just bring it up, be confident, and then just work it out with her afterward in terms of, like, what that means for your relationship. Because, I mean, it is true. My wife, now wife, at the time brought up that, she had an ex-boyfriend who she actually dated for a few years back in college, where he was like that, where he, like, totally binged World of Warcraft and even failed a semester for it. And it was kind of a strain on them. So, but anyway, up front, I was like, look, I mean, yes, okay, I've done that in the past. Not the failing, but the binging for sure. But, I mean, it's something I'm going to continue as a hobby, but I'm going to find a balance. And I honestly think I have. I mean, I married her and we procreated. So I've got proof. It can work. It can work.
All right. And TBK, I'm going to jump to you before I give my thoughts, because, of course, you both are married with families. So you have found a way that works, and then I'll give my perspective
but
as a young
wife,
gaming bachelor who is going through that process as well.
I was just going to say, TBK's wife, though, can throw a mean stitches hook.
Yes, you can.
Mean stitches hook.
And what's really interesting is she was not a video game person at all when we started dating or when we got married. I think a lot of it is don't you want to be real with whoever you're dating, right? You don't necessarily want to unload all your crazy on them like the first night. So when you go on that first date and you like, you know, Mario, he's one of my favorite dudes. He has a brother named Luigi, and they go and save a princess whose name is Peach, who gets kidnapped by Bowser. And Bowser has these like 9 Koopa kids, and they set up these elaborate castle traps to get them. And they have minions, they have Goombas and Koopa Troopas, and these sledgehammer bros, and there's a star you can get that makes you invincible, so you can go and run and hit it. You don't do that necessarily.
Hey, look,
you're having dinner and it's like, oh gosh, there's a Charizard outside. I'll be right back in a second.
I gotta throw in though, I did watch that Super Mario Brothers movie, the really bad one with
A really good one.
I mean, okay, yeah, it's really good. But, you know, the 1995 one, on one of my first dates with a girl I ended up dating for 4 years. So there you have it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Can be done.
But you do want to kind of make known that, hey, this is a hobby of mine. This is something I'm interested in. And if a person can't accept you for who you are, then that's probably not the person you necessarily want to be with. Like if you want to change who you are for a person, that's your prerogative. But for me, like gaming and growing up with that is part of who I am as a person. Like I've been PC gaming since I was like 7 years old. I had the original Nintendo, I had a Super Nintendo, I had an N64. So this is kind of part of my identity as well. And so letting them know that, and just letting them know that you're okay with it. And it may be one of those things where when you get married, maybe you do have to cut back some. I know for me, I've definitely cut back on my gaming time some. I mean, I'm a husband, I'm a dad. I've got things that have been prioritized now over gaming in my life. But at the same time, I'm still a gamer. I'm always going to be a gamer. And my wife has even become kind of a gamer. As we've gone on, she's picked up this stuff. It's very much this is something that I didn't enjoy before, but I'll try it out because I like you. And so you try it out. Some of the stuff she'll like, some of the stuff she won't. And we found some good common ground and just kind of gone from there. And she's not a hardcore gamer or anything, but now she knows she knows what a lot of Blizzard characters are. She has a max level in Guild Wars 2. She plays Heroes with me occasionally. We play Mario Kart. So if I would say, to kind of wrap it all up so I'm not rambling the whole time, just broach it with, this is something I like to do. And if it's something they're totally turned off to, then, you know, react appropriately. But if not, then it's something that maybe even along the way you can introduce them to a little bit. That's what Nintendo is for. Nintendo is for converting
get a Switch.
Gaming people into gaming people. So there you go.
Get a Switch. Get Mario Kart.
And I also, before I start, I also do want to say, just as a disclaimer, we are not doctors. We are not psychologists. This is our own personal experiences. I just feel like somebody would send us an email like, who are you giving us love advice? This isn't, what's that late night show where they oh man, I used to listen to that.
This isn't Dr. Phil. We don't even have that many credentials.
Yeah,
and that's pretty low.
This isn't even Dr. Drew.
Dr. Drew,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, we did say you could send us any
Yes.
questions.
And I really
So-
appreciate this question because it's a hard topic, and I think it's good to get other people's experiences out there. Myself, I've experienced several different phases. So when I was growing up, pretty much all of through high school, I've been a gamer, but I was a closet gamer. I didn't really hide the fact. I just never really talked about it, except for like occasional console stuff, because guys in high school, middle school, we're into Call of Duty and Halo. So I would carry on into those conversations. But when it came to dating, things like that, I just didn't talk about it, period. And I dated a girl all through high school into college, first girl I would say I ever really fell in love with. And for all those 5.5 years, I don't really think she knew at all that I was really a gamer. And again, it's not that I was purposefully trying to hide it. I just didn't talk about it. And, had that turned into, say, a full-on relationship, I propose we get married, a situation like that could potentially cause problems where, we move in together and now I'm doing what I normally did, not thinking it's an issue at all. But all of a sudden it becomes because she sees how I'm spending a lot of my time. So I don't, like TBK said, I think you want to be yourself and, not necessarily push it on her, but just kind of, and like I said, I wasn't hiding it, but be open about it. Fast forward 2 years ago, I had a different situation. I was dating another girl who was not a gamer. But this time, I openly talked about it. And you guys actually met her. She came to one of our LAN parties. Again, not a gamer at all. But I talked about it enough. She was really open to it. She came to one of our LAN parties that I don't remember all of. But that was another thing.
That's another story.
That was another thing. But, she had a good time. She, from what I remember, she sat down, played some games. She had played some games in the past. She came over. She was really interested in my podcasting. She watched some of our podcasts as I was doing that live. And I think that was a really healthy way to introduce it, especially to somebody who, wasn't a gamer, period. So I'm still kind of in that search, and I think that's the steps I will take moving forward. But another big thing in on this is, do you know if she's a gamer? Because that's another thing that can completely change the scenario. So just, be open with yourself. I think we're at a point in time where being a video gamer is much less frowned upon than it used to be.
Right. That's kind of the point I was trying to make.
Yeah. So it's easier, I think, to be open about it. But, again, just try and ease her into it. See if you can find a common connection through it. Get a Nintendo Switch. Get her hooked on it. Turn her into a gamer. That's all. Just turn her into a gamer. I don't know.
Convert her.
But
is there some sort of like ray that we can use? Some sort of laser gun?
Yeah.
I will use it.
But I don't want to like give advice because obviously I'm still in that scenario. But I hope at least kind of my listening to my experiences may help in some way, shape, or form.
No, that is helpful. Actually, it is kind of funny because, I mean, I knew you back in high school. Not well. I mean, I was more friends with your older brother, but it's true. I kind of didn't really perceive you as a gamer back then. You know me, like that was what I was all about. And so it's interesting to me that, like, you were the entire time, but didn't cover it up, but didn't really like wear it on your sleeve either. So
yeah, because I was a jock too. I was playing sports, multiple sports year round. And marching band, student senate, things like that. So I get that a lot. I do get that a lot, that people are like, oh, when did you start gaming? It's like, dude, I've been gaming since I could pick up a controller.
Yeah.
Which it's neat in a way, I think. But yeah, hopefully it helps. And also, if there's any women out there who have advice, or anyone, I'll say this, listeners who have had any experiences that you think may help shed some light, whether that is like TBK's, to where you married somebody that wasn't really a gamer but has kind of gotten into gaming, or if you're married to somebody who completely isn't a gamer, if that changed your way at all, I think it would just be helpful to hear from some more people. So feel free to send in some responses.
It's just an interesting topic.
It is.
We could revisit.
It really is. Mm-hmm. All right, so next one we have here is from Kadzin.
Kadzin, yes. So another interesting topic. So here we go. Let's see here. So Kadzen writes, I'd like to continue the conversation of content released from last week. Gizmo mentioned that Blizzard does not abandon their games, and that is certainly true, but they do switch focus from them. Ask a Diablo fan or StarCraft fan if they think the amount of content they were getting is anywhere close to the content Overwatch or Warcraft were getting, and you will hear a lot of salt, especially Diablo, that brought us nothing for the Diablo's 20th anniversary and content droughts that last months, if not years. Even mini expansion packs like the Necro felt rushed, buggy, and very unbalanced on release. My second thought was on the length of hero releases. I personally realized that the new heroes is what keeps me interested in the game. Reworks are not new content. I wouldn't even call them reworks. They are just updates to keep those heroes relevant to the meta and current game direction. A rework would be new abilities, new art, new model, and a complete talent update. I can understand why the dev team is slowing down, but I'm certainly disappointed by it. What do you guys think? Regards, Kadzen. And yeah, I mean, I definitely agree on a lot of these points yet again. I think we this is a conversation that's going on a few weeks now for sure. But it is true, you know, it was a super feels bad moment when this BlizzCon rolled around and there was just nothing out of Diablo at all. And then StarCraft, I mean, yeah, same kind of story. You think about even some of the old StarCraft podcasts that just aren't running anymore because, yes, it's still a big esport out there, but there's just not a lot of new stuff to talk about. So I get that for sure. So, yeah, I'm with you, and I will echo Gizmo's point earlier in that this already feels pretty long between releases right now, and if we don't get it in the next couple of days, I'm just going to start tweaking. I'm just going to start shaking in my chair until it happens. So, yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bit more of a drought as well, and it's starting to get disappointing. But we'll see what they end up doing on my end. So, what do you guys think?
It's kind of the same thing as last week. I understand it is obviously super exciting to always be getting new stuff. I agree with the Diablo and StarCraft comparisons to an extent. Diablo, I don't think is really a game that's meant to be getting as many content drops as multiplayer, like online PvP games. That's more of a just like a RPG that comes out, like Final Fantasy or something that's meant to play through as a story. Although it's evolved into something greater to where we have our seasons and stuff now. And even though we don't get as many updates, I think that game is still personally in a pretty great spot. Thor and I were just having this conversation before the show because I was power leveling him up a character. And yes, it's super sad we didn't hear anything about Diablo at Blizzard. But that is a game that is probably the third most played game out of any game I've ever played is Diablo 2, because not even every season, 2 or 3, my bad.
2 is honestly probably the truth for me, which is funny.
Because I don't have to hop in every season. I can miss out on a season and then bam, out of nowhere, I'll pick it back up just like I did this last week or week and a half and fall in love with it all over again. There are not a ton of changes, but there's tweaks to balancing and stuff to builds to where, oh, it's different this time. I can go through and play it. So I think that's a completely different thing, separate from StarCraft, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, and Hearth, pretty much every other game that they have. And I'm also hopeful that they didn't mention it something at BlizzCon because maybe they're not doing much content for that now because they're working on another Diablo. I'd be super stoked for that. But yeah, the heroes thing, I get why it's hard. Like we just said, like if we don't get something announced this week for whatever reason, like at that point, I think it's been too long. Come on, we got to get something. We do a podcast on this. We're looking for news every week, exciting things to talk about. And it's not annoying, but it's kind of sad when we have spent multiple weeks like, all right, maybe this week we're gonna another hero. Not this week. All right, maybe next week. But it's just the natural state of the game, and I think it's something that we do have to accept at some point. Whether now is the right time to accept that, who knows? I think it's just something we have to trust that Blizzard knows what they're doing when they're currently working on what they're roadmap looks like for the rest of 2018 and into 19.
Yeah, and in those off weeks between content, you guys are going to get questionable relationship advice. So if that doesn't light a fire under you, Blizzard, I don't know what will. You've got to stop this.
TBK?
I would both disagree and not disagree when you say reworks are not new content. Because reworks do take dev resources, and a lot of times with the heroes that do get reworked, we get potentially new skins. We get sometimes updated ability art, or ability tweaks as well. And so that's art resources, and that's tech resources and design resources. So from that perspective, yes, it is new content, but I completely understand from a player perspective is I already have this hero. We're just making them relevant again, which in some ways, yes, that's true. But you have to understand as well that game development is a continually evolving process, and the heroes team from a design mentality has evolved a lot in their understanding of what works, what doesn't, and the kind of things they can do now versus 2 or 3 years ago. So from their perspective, yes, this is new content because they are now updating this hero with a current design mentality as if, they were making a new hero in a lot of ways, or at least thinking the same way of doing that. So I don't think it's completely fair to not call it new content, but it's not completely unfair either, because it does ride that middle ground. Personally, I feel like we're still, because I did the research on this, and I had this all ready for last week, and then of course I didn't get to come. But I think League slowed down at about 100 heroes, and we are definitely not there yet.
Well, what was their hero release like up to that 100? Was it every 3-4 weeks like Heroes
Yes.
was? Okay.
Oh yeah. They were every 2 weeks for quite a while. And so, yeah, they didn't really slow down until they hit 100. Like last year, I think they only did like 5 last year.
Yeah, they're really slow now.
Dota only did like 2
slow
last year. Yeah, I know. And we mentioned Critic Kitten, just the numbers dude. He had tweeted something out. Dota 2 only had 2 new heroes last year, none so far this year. League had 5 new heroes last year and 1 this year. Smite had 9 last year and 2 this year. And Heroes had 15 last year, 2 this year already, with 2 more confirmed for March and April releases. So I think I don't mind a little bit of a slowdown. I mean, we are starting to get up there to where reworks should take a little bit of priority, because what good is a game when you're releasing new heroes if a ton of your old heroes are just crappy or suck or have a very old school design mentality? Like, there has to be some updating of older heroes as you go. And especially once you get into the league situation where you've got like 140, that's probably going to be the majority of your time spent is cycling almost, and bringing back old heroes you haven't seen in a while but have been in the game for a long time and whatnot. Heroes is starting to get to that point, but I don't think we're there yet. My current feeling is I would like to see releases every 4, maybe every 5 weeks. But I would still like to see 10 to 12 heroes a year. Mm-hmm. Like one hero a month for the next 1 to 3 years, or even 10 heroes a year, I don't think is unreasonable for the current amount of heroes that we have. Well, like I said, League didn't start slowing down until they hit 100.
Correct.
So I wouldn't I don't want to see them slow down too much. I still want to see 10 to 12 a year, because I think we need that for a little while longer to maintain that cadence. And then when we've got that 100 plus, you can start slowing it down a little more and do some maybe even big, large scale reworks like some of these League heroes get, where it's like a full on art redesign of the hero and all their skins, and sometimes kit changes and that type of thing.
Let's not forget, though, League may have kept that pace up to 100 champions, but they also had to only design those heroes based around one map, which
Right.
is an easier thing to do.
Yeah.
And I
And I
will
think-
say, while this has been a long period here now, there is I'm not going to say 100% confirmed, but it seems to be 99.99% confirmed hero announcement coming April 5th, which is less than a month away. So even though
Right.
this has been a long period, it doesn't seem like it's going to be like that for the next hero announcement after this. So
Depending on when that hero comes out.
yeah,
after the
but
announcement.
typically they've never waited a super long time after that. But I mean, at least
Yeah,
we're getting
usually,
the hero announcement. So it may be a month between then. But even if we get that hero in April, then that's still 4 heroes
Sure.
in 4 months. So I would agree. I like the 1 hero per month. I would be okay if, as long as we hit 10 heroes this year. I think that seems good.
I think 10 to 12 is good, and Heroes does have the luxury of not having one map.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes a new map can in some way replace a hero as well from a new content release perspective. Because when a new map comes out, that can re-energize in some ways even a lot of heroes that maybe you didn't play before. Maybe some of those older heroes, or maybe some heroes that aren't played very much, are all of a sudden really good on this new map because of a mechanic or because of, how an objective works or something like that. So Heroes does have that luxury.
And new maps are always an option. Like, even if 3, 4, 5 years down the road we're getting to as slow or getting close to as slow as some of these other games in terms of hero releases, they could always throw in a new flavorful map from time to time. I could see them coming out even in those years as, packaged bundles with new skins and a theme, kind of like we've seen, with Volskaya and a few others. So, I could see them going that direction, and that would breathe new life into some of the existing heroes and all that. But I really liked your comparison with those other games, TBK. And it's starting to make me think, I honestly would rather them slow down a little bit as they've done now than really get to the point where they have to super slow down sooner. Like, I'd rather get 10 a year, 2018, 2019, than 15 for both of those, and then 5 in 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. A much more ramped slowdown.
Mm-hmm. And I do think Critic Kit makes another great point in here. As long as they keep this pace of heroes, but the other content drops, if they have good filler, then I think that's fine. I think currently this gap has not really been great filler. But if they can, continue on what they wanted to do with their streamline between reworks, hero releases, battleground releases,
Battleground
theme
reworks
skin stuff. Yeah, battleground reworks.
too, which we haven't seen yet, but hopefully we'll start seeing those a little interspersed as well.
Yeah. So as long as they can keep those gaps, I think this could be an okay thing. But this time, this gap has felt a little bad. So we'll just have to see.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Got another one here from Todd S.
Yes, so this one actually, Todd brings up a point that I hadn't thought about last episode, and it's been brought up to me as well on the side here too. But I definitely want to address it. Todd S writes, personally, I don't think the double elimination structure should be in HOTS. He's addressing again the Western Clash that we just had. The issue is specifically for the grand finals. Everyone acts as if it were a fresh single best of 7 that would solve all the problems, as pointed out by Multizord, but that isn't the case. In that scenario, Dignitas would be given up their second life for free, which is insanely not fair. Why would Zealots get 2 lives and Dignitas gets 1? That's why I disagree heavily with Multizord. The issue is, no matter what, someone gets screwed in a grand final for a double elimination structure, does the winner lose their second life for free? Do you have the winner bracket finalists lose both lives and Zealots has to beat them in 2 series like they do in Call of Duty and other games? That system is horrific too. Giving a 1-game advantage is an in-between solution. It doesn't make it to where Dig has to lose their second life for free, and it doesn't force Zealots to win 2 series back-to-back against Dig. It's a middle ground to have Dig sacrifice their second life for a 1-game advantage. There's no perfect answer. The better conversation is to go away from the double elimination tournaments, start with a round-robin tournament, and then that gives seeding for a single elimination tournament bracket so that there's no grand finals drama, and the midseason brawl has a structure close to this, but no other tournament does. So yeah, like I mentioned, this is a point that actually Blackout pointed out to me. We got in a very short but meaningful conversation in over Twitter DMs over the weekend, and yeah, it's just a point I hadn't thought about. The fact that so Dignitas hadn't lost at all, so to keep a true double elimination bracket, they would have to lose twice, and that would be I don't know. We already had Zealots go 14 games in a row. Did we really want to make that?
I said that last week.
Yeah, you kind of made the point there too. So anyway, my point is, you're right. I agree. Or rather, I should say, I kind of disagree with my point last week a little bit now. Taking into consideration the extra life factor here. But it is true. I mean, it's weird that essentially Dig gives up their second life for just 1 win, and then it still leads to a not true best of 7 ending. So it's true. And I mean, I think Todd's pointing at this too. The bracket does have a little bit of a feels bad moment at the end there. And I don't know if his answer of going back to round robin seeding for a single elim is the way, or if there is a clean answer. But I know they are trying to balance it with, obviously, the amount of time that they have allotted and all that good stuff as well. So, but yeah, no, really, really good input though, for sure.
Real quick before I forget this, because I just remembered, thanks to chat, what my idea was last week that I thought was really good at the time. I don't think it's as good now, but I couldn't think of the example. So it was, if it starts out a best of 7. If the team that has the first seed never went down to the losers bracket wins that best of 7, and it starts at 0, there's no game given, then they win. If the other team comes and they win, say, 3 games, so 3-2, 3-1, then it turns into a best of 5. They win that series. It resets to another best of 5. That was my idea.
Oh, so they get their second life.
Yes, and it turns it into 2 shorter series. So that way it's not a best of 14 potentially to reset it. So that was my idea to deal with the best life thing. Overall, I do think for a tournament standpoint, round robin is probably the best as far as getting the best team seeded and through without fighting this weird extra life thing, which is weird. There's no way around it, but it is kind of the best way to do it at this point. However, the one thing I don't like about the round robin is that doesn't guarantee, kind of like we had for the Western Clash, is regions facing each other in every set for the first round, which was awesome, and I loved it. Mm-hmm. The best we could do is like 2 teams in each from different regions in each group, and so we see those 2 teams kind of round robin, which wouldn't be bad either. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of still stuck between round robin and this current system.
The other thing the double elim structure allows for a little bit better, I think, too, is the what was almost Cinderella story of the Zealots too, getting knocked down right out the gate and having to fight their way back up the whole time. That made for some interesting commentary and play for sure. So it is true. There's advantages and disadvantages either way. But TBK, what do you think about all this? You didn't get to chat about it last week, so
yeah. And I mean, I won't take up too much time. My preferred method has always been round robin single elim. The big problem with that, I feel like it's probably the closest you can get from a fair standpoint. It takes a lot of time though, because with that round robin, each team would play every other team for seeding rights, which is awesome. That's actually really, really cool that each team would play every other team, because then you'd get a lot of that really interesting NA versus EU, EU versus EU, NA versus NA type thing for the points they would need. And then you seed them into a bracket, and then it's best of fives all the way through to the end, which is a best of seven, but it's all single elim. I think that honestly works best, but it takes a lot of time. And I don't know if Blizzard necessarily would want to expand the tournament's extra days. But just from me personally, I feel that's probably the best and the fairest way to go about things. You don't have an extra life or anything to worry about. Every team gets the experience of playing with every team, which especially for things like the midseason brawl, when ANZ teams, Latin America teams, Southeast Asia teams come up, it gives them a ton of good experience if they get to round robin against every other big team. So at least they have the chance to get in those extra sets versus these really strong teams, even if they get knocked out in the elimination right away.
Yeah, I agree. If they could do a round robin that way, where every team plays every team, that'd be 100% the best. But the way they currently do it with the groups is disappointing, just because you lose the potential for some of the matchups, which is still lost in the double elim. But we'll see what they continue to do and what the midseason brawl structure will be. So we got a couple more quick questions here. We have Spazm.
So I want to point out real quick though, in the chat, Cheese Dog with the question from earlier was saying that he might play this podcast for that girl that we were talking about earlier to give her context, etc. I'll warn you against that only slightly, because if I try to show this show to anyone who doesn't know Here's the Storm, they don't know what the heck I'm talking about through this entire thing. So caution there. Anyway, what was I talking about? Spasm. Okay. So this was a super interesting idea. Spasm writes, with voice chat now in the main client, would it make sense to change Hero League to any team smaller than 5, 1 through 4? Then Team League could be solely as 5v5 for those who want to do that. Think about the queue time improvements. Not just queue time improvements, but it is kind of true. So, I mean, this is a conversation we've been having for some time. And certainly when they made the change from, whatever to duo to single. But now, I mean, I do agree. The team chat adds a new element to this. I think it's something we can now revisit a little bit more and kind of say, because I saw this question earlier in the week and I was thinking to myself, one of the problems, I guess, with queuing is whatever, anything from 1 through 4 that I encountered in the past was you'd get 3 guys that would queue together and they would just kind of do their own thing, have their own plan, and not even really include you. But I think that the voice chat would help them include you. So how cool would it be to get in a game, a Hero League game, where like I'm just hopping in for whatever, and I hop in, there's 3 that have queued together, and they say, okay, look, we've got this really cool setup where we're super good at executing this wombo combo. We do like, I don't know, Mosh Pit into Ring of Frost on Jaina, into the Warden's Cages on Maiev, or something like that, right? And then they would tell me, they'd be like, all right, so all we need is a support, probably a sustained support. So if you can take blah, 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 we can make this happen. And then if they like called the shots through the whole game and just executed their wombo as well as they said that they would, and we just all work together, I think that would be an incredible experience and a really good one. So I'm just saying, this may be something that I at least think needs to be revisited with the voice chat changes. So I would be intrigued to hear if you guys agree.
If nothing else, I think it for sure needs to go back to 1 or 2 queue.
Fair point.
Especially with the voice chat. I don't know about the and maybe even 3, but 3 and 4, you're still then getting the potential to where you can queue up as a group a majority of the team that plays together all the time, which gives you a bigger advantage over, say, and granted they can do that too, but that gives you a much bigger advantage over, say, somebody who's queuing up as a solo or duo queue. Even though they have the comms, they don't have that synergy of playing together. So that's a little iffy, but I do think for sure, without a doubt, bring duo queue back for Hero League. DBK?
I agree. I think we are at the point where duo queuing for Hero League should not be near as big of a problem as it may have been before, or at least a lot of the barriers because of voice chat the implementation may have taken it down. So I think I would be okay if they added duo queue back to Hero League, and it would also take some of that strain off of Team League as well, and allow you to queue like as any number for Team League potentially. Yeah, I don't know.
But what would be great
I'd be okay with it.
is if, and this runs into the issue we had a long time ago in discussions of splitting the player base. Ideally, it would be great to have, say, like a 1 or 2 queue, a flex queue, which could be anywhere from 2 to 5, or say 2 to 4, or and then a team league, which is just bam, 5 straight up. Let's see what you got.
And you just get in those queues based on how many people you have, as opposed to what mode you're selecting.
Well, yeah, but you'd still have the separate rankings.
True.
Yeah, and that seems like it'd probably be too much if you split it into 3.
Currently, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But we do have one more question, but I think we're going to save that for next week from Kyle T, so we're not forgetting about you. But before we get out of here real quick, Multi, why don't you tell people where we can be reached?
You can find us in-game by typing /join space LOTS, or you can join our Discord, which is sticky at the top of our Twitter, but also on bit.ly/lotsdiscord. Anyway, go to our Twitter, though, at Lords of the Storm. We're also on twitch.tv/Lords of the Storm, which is live Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Central. And we got a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lords of the Storm podcast. You can email us with feedback or questions at lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. And we definitely proved this episode that we will answer almost all questions. So there you have it. Also, if you do want to help us out, though, in the meantime, it's been a little while, I think. I'd have to check. But iTunes reviews, preferably 5-star, but whatever you deem appropriate, are super helpful to us, as are Stitcher reviews, et cetera, et cetera. Any of the mediums out there. It's not mediums, is it? It's media. Right, words. And there's also the patreon.com/Lords of the Storm, where, again, for all of those who've considered giving, we appreciate it. And all those who have in the past at really any point, we just thank you guys. And you keep the lights on over here, and you got those new revamped, you keep this map of the United States behind me, and ketchup packets and all that good stuff. So thank you.
And you could say mediums. A media is a medium. You know, we are creators. We are artists of the interwebs, of the radio waves, creating sound with our vocals, our voice boxes vibrating to make different
that right
pitches.
There. That was art, people. Whatever he just did, I don't even know. I have to watch Twitch right now to see what you did.
Oh, he clapped. He clapped real fast.
Okay.
Okay.
But you can also find us individually. You can find myself on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, all those things at GizmoZord, as well as Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Central over at twitch.tv/ConvertToRaid for Convert to Raid presents the BattleNet News, which you can also find on iTunes, all those things. Multi, where can you be found?
I can be found on Twitter at Multizord, and also on another show called Hearth Casual, which is a Hearthstone show with Ro or Brian from Realm Maintenance, and it's on Twitter at Hearth Casual. This is an off week for us, so we do an every other week format, but on the off weeks, we still want to at least cover the Brawl, et cetera, et cetera. But this was an off week in which they announced the expansion, right? So I did send in just like a quick 5-minute deal to get added on, just with my initial reaction. I make that same point about comparing it to 2015 Heroes of the Storm BlizzCon, but a few more insights as to what I think the direction they're taking with that Gen Greymane card, for instance. So yeah, check that one out, and then we'll be back for a full episode the following week.
And TBK.
You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord and not on twitch.tv/TBKZord because I don't stream these days because it's super busy.
Because, baby.
But hopefully soon. Yeah, baby and work when I go back. It's going to be crazy. But April should start slowing down a little bit. So that'll be good.
Excellent. Want to give
Yeah,
a
it's
a little-
special...
No, I said just a few more weeks. I'm just waiting for it.
Wait, we got to end on
Few more
another
weeks.
awkward silence. You guys ready?
He still has to give a special
We
shout
want to
out,
give a
though.
Well, yeah, I
special
know.
thanks to our patron producer, Ouroboros Sword, for helping support the show, as well as Wicked Kitten and chat and mod things for us. We will see you all, hopefully after here is announced, same time, same place next week, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central. Have a good one.
Enough. I shall do no more.